You can put where you're calling from in the chat. I wanna hear. I'm in Boston right now, and it's kind of cold. New York. Ines, you're in New York. I'm guessing it's similar temperature there. Rhode Island, Pittsburgh. Oh, I don't actually know what the temperature is in picture. We have San Diego. We have Rockland, Massachusetts. Oh, but Manhattan. That's great.
Miami.
Oh,
California.
that's like, I'm so jealous about that, right?
Somerville, super nice.
Oh, Los Gatos, 72. I was about to say it in Spanish, but like, I'm sorry, 72 degrees. Oh,
London.
Puerto Rico.
Nice. Houston.
I'm so jealous right now. Janet,
anybody from Dallas? I used to live in Dallas, so since I saw Texas in there, any Dallas people joining? I'm in DC, by the way.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that, Janet, if you can share where and what is the
DC.
temperature over there?
It's like high 50s, but now I feel like after here in Puerto Rico and Miami, I'm like, nothing to brag about.
75.
Oh, nice.
Nobody from Dallas? Missouri. I'm surprised, Janet. It seems that nobody's from Dallas.
Yeah. Whoa,
Bali.
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
That's amazing.
What time is it over there?
At Seattle, Portland.
Oh, it's Portland. Awesome. Philadelphia. Oh.
I'm actually going to check what time is in New Zealand right now.
Midday.
Oh, midday.
Canada.
Springfield, Missouri. 70. Oh, yeah, that's great.
Since we have international people, I'm going to throw another one in there. Anybody from Amsterdam? I used to live there as well. Amsterdam people. Netherlands. Summer. Oh.
We have people from many places, Janet. Like I'm excited of this. Is John, are you the one that is in New Zealand? It's summer over there. That's what you're saying. Oh, nice. I actually see you, John, there.
Yes. It's kind of 25, 26 degrees Celsius and a beautiful, fresh little breeze. And it's paradise.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're only going to wait 1 more minute, but please, if you are just joining, put where you calling right now and how's the temperature over there. We're just trying to see where are everyone right now. So we have people from Orlando. We have people in so many different places. Toronto, Canada. And we're looking someone from Amsterdam. If is anyone from Amsterdam? Arizona. Yes. Okay, so we're about to start. If you haven't put in the chat yet, where are you calling from, and what is the temperature? Just please feel free to just put it there. We're about to start. Phoenix. Victoria. Okay, perfect. I'm so excited. London. Oh, Long Island. I was about to say London, but I think I see someone from London. Okay, this is so exciting to have people from so many places. I'm going to start. Hi, everyone. My name is Carola Leiva. I'm the director of Women of Alpha Boston. For the people that don't know about Alpha, I want to introduce a little bit about Alpha. So Alpha's mission is to provide opportunities for leadership development, community engagement, and network for Latino men and women. So please join Alpha to find out more events like this one that we're going to have today. And then I will share in the chat a little bit, a link to Alpha and a link to check out our Gold member brochure. So if you see in the chat, you can check more things about Alpha. In particular, as I say, I am the director of Women of Alpha Boston, and Women of Alpha Boston is dedicated to the success of Latina through the leadership development, networking, mentoring, and sponsorship opportunities. The goal is to empower and encourage Latinas to reach out their full potential and become trailblazers in the industries and communities. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I don't know if you noticed, but today's event is being recorded. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Now, I am excited to introduce Janet Gallardo. Janet has 20 years of experience in business finance. She's a human design expert and money adept. She utilizes human design to create awareness around finance. Her mission is to get clients to feel confident around their finance. As she likes to say, she humanized finance for conscious entrepreneurs. So I won't take more of your time, Janet. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. All right, so let's get started. And first of all, I want to thank you for joining, and I'm very happy to be here and to be able to share a little bit of, hopefully you get golden nuggets of information from this webinar. And yeah, that is my goal, to empower the people around me, my clients, people who really want to work on their finances and also on their skills, right, to get there. So as Carola said, my name is Janet Gallardo, and I work with clients in different ways. I work with entrepreneurs who are really good at their craft, but they do not have a finance background. And I also work with people who want to start their finance consulting firm. So they have a finance background and they want to start their own firm, but they don't know how to. So I work with them as well. So if we go to the next slide, I wanted to share this quote because it has played a big part in my life. And it's, if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. Quoting my mom. So I added this quote because probably when she said it was when it was when I was little. So probably she was referring like to, you know, give me the tools to have a voice, to have a say. But I guess she never thought I was going to be applying it in every area of my life. So I go with that. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So it applies also to tonight's conversation, to today's conversation on salary negotiation. If you never ask for that increase, negotiate your salary for that raise, then guess what? The answer will be no. So you can always work in different ways to get there. And it's not just asking for the sake of asking, but it also requires to really be prepared, do your homework, and identify the areas where your strengths are and your weaknesses, and really polish those so that you can prepare to, when the time is right, to have that negotiation. So let's go on to the next slide. So I wanted to share a couple of statistics, which I find it fascinating. So who's negotiating their salary? This pertains to job applicants, so people that are looking for jobs. So this is really fascinating because 84% of employers expect job applicants to negotiate their salary, but only 37% of people negotiate their salary. 51% of those people have negotiated for a higher pay, and it's normally men who which contributes to 57% versus women of 47%. So for the most part, based on pure data, 61% of men are confident in negotiating their salaries compared to 53% of women. So that really is something to consider. Why, like to ask ourselves, why am I not negotiating my salary? Like employers, especially if you're considering or you're applying for a job, they're expecting that. They're expecting that negotiation. So why am I not doing it? What is not allowing me to get there? There are a couple of times when one can negotiate a salary, whether we're starting a new job, we're getting a promotion, or there's an increase in job duties. Those are kind of like the times that we can prepare and be ready to have that conversation. And again, going back to those percentages, really thinking next time, like if you're, and especially if you're right now looking for a job, like having that in the back of your head. If you don't ask, the answer is no, but also that 84% of employers or companies are expecting to have that conversation. So remember that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So now let's talk about salary raise within a current job. So this is for people that are in the company, they have been there for a while, and how they're doing as far as asking for a salary raise. So 57% of women stated they have never negotiated a raise within their employer. Some of the barriers that keep women from having those conversations is that they're feeling they have all of the that they don't have the information they need, and also that they feel like they're bragging. So if I'm asking for a raise, like I'm bragging, and sometimes they're just happy and grateful to have a job. So again, this leaves me with the question, why are you not negotiating your salary? Why aren't you asking for that raise? What is your biggest concern? Is it getting a no, or that you will be perceived differently? So all of those things are valid, and preparing for that moment to make sure you acknowledge everything that is required to have that conversation is crucial. And today I'm going to walk you through the steps to help you get there. So let's go to the next slide. So I am, like, normally finance people are perceived as really boring and very dry, and I'm none of those. So I wanted to do a fun poll, and I wanted to compare it with Robert Half. So the poll is, what would I rather do than asking for a raise in my salary or negotiating my salary? You have house cleaning is more fun than asking for a raise. I would rather look for a different job. I would rather get a root canal, or I would opt for an IRS audit. Let's see what everybody's saying. I'm very curious to compare to what Robert Half. And by the way, Robert Half, for those of you that I think Robert Half is actually international. So, but again, for those of you who haven't heard of Robert Half, it's just a recruiting company. All right, so the answers are coming in. So we have taking 62% would rather look for a new job. Yep. 37 house cleaning sounds more fun. 7% would rather get a root canal, and 7 would rather opt for an IRS audit. So Robert Half's had, actually, this is very interesting, the same, very close percentages. 32 for cleaning the house is more fun. 62 for I would rather look for a job. And 7% I would rather get a root canal, and 6% I would rather do an IRS audit. That is amazing. Meaning like that the results are very like similar. So I would rather look for a new job. Very interesting. And again, that, like, having that conversation, getting comfortable, doing the research, preparing, if you're happy with your job, like, the issue is the salary raise, then that's something that you should definitely work on before jumping into the next job. So excellent. So I'm going to close this. We're going to go to the next slide. So a salary negotiation is a collaboration. It's not a conflict. And I think if we reframe how it sounds, because it sounds like, oh, it's going to be, I don't know, like a conflict and back and forth and just very complicated and very stressful and all of the things that cross our mind, but it's actually a collaboration. It's asking and having the conversation where you're like, these are all the things that that I have provided, that I have increased, or I have like a way to increase the company's bottom line, or, you know, like it's just a collaboration. It's just having a conversation, an honest conversation. But at the same time, you don't want to come across arrogant. You want to be gracious, polite, and grateful, and while being confident and persuasive. I think persuasive is the key word here, like really knowing, having all your ducks in a row. So let's move to the next slide. So how do you prepare for that conversation? How do you know if you're qualified to get a salary increase or to negotiate your salary? How can you determine? So I want to walk you through a self-assessment on your skills. So what we want to know is, as you're preparing or determining if you qualify, or if you're there to get to ask for, have that conversation, we want to look at how scarce are your skills. And a way to identify this is by asking yourself, like, how easy or how easily can your employer replace your role? Let's say you're a superstar. You always improve, like the work that you do, the reporting, whatever. If you're in marketing, you're always like figuring out ways to improve the quality of not just your work, but the quality of how it impacts other departments with the organization. Like, people in the organization value what you do. You're an asset to the company. You're beyond what your role in that particular job is. So how easily can you be replaced? And that's a really valid question to ask and to think about it. And also, if you're like, oh, actually, I can be replaced very easily, then that gives you some time to consider, like, okay, so what are the areas that I need to work on? Like, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And also determining, where do you want to go? Like, where do you want to be 5 years from now? And putting a plan together where you can be kind of like, okay, so I want to be here in 5 years. So I want to, let's say, again, I'm going to use a marketing example. Let's say I'm the person responsible for all of our digital marketing for the company. And in 5 years, I want to be the director of marketing. What do I need to do to get there? Where do I need to train? How can I, what courses or studies or continuing ed do I need to take in order for me to help me get there? This is really a good place to start, because it's really going to highlight the areas that you need to grow and to develop. And then another one is, and here is, how are you contributing to the company's bottom line? So this is an important question. And when I say bottom line, a lot of people are like, what does that mean? So bottom line, how are you contributing to the profit that the company is making money? And you may say, well, I'm doing an admin job. Like, I have nothing to do with sales. Like, why would I even worry about if I'm contributing to the bottom line? everybody in the organization contributes to the bottom line. The type of job that you do has an impact on the bottom line. And there's different ways to understand that. And also when you become aware of that and have that conversation with, let's say, your supervisor or the impact that you're making on the bottom line, that proves like, okay, this person, like they have shown that they haven't improved. They're working like on improving the bottom line. They're working on, everybody within the organization has goals. Every department has goals. So it comes from the executives and then they get distributed all the way down to the impact that I'm making. So even having that conversation with your supervisor or manager, where how can I contribute to the bottom line? Like what are the things within our department that are immediately affecting the business where I can be part of that? That's another way, like to get more, like to help you polish and see where you need to improve so that you can get there to that conversation. Another factor would be how long have you been with the company? Let's say you have been a year, less than a year. Well, I mean, there's a study where HR, it takes about 6 months for an employer, about 6 to 9 months for an employer to, I guess, to gain back what they spend on you, because they have to spend a lot at the beginning on your training, on, let's say if they went through a recruiter, they have to pay the recruiter. So on so many different aspects that the employer has to kind of like put out there, like to invest in you. So let's say you only have been a year with the company, you're already asking for a raise. Well, that's not like the timing won't be right, because they haven't recouped their investment yet. So you still need to show that, you know, like what your strengths and how you can become one. So at the end of the day is becoming one with the organization, working toward the same goals, so that everybody's achieving what the goals are, so that then we can have that those conversations. Another way to look into this would be how much training have you been taking, like any continuing ed, any courses, any licenses, if that applies to your specific role. It's important to identify as well. And my personal favorite one is any improvements within your role that you have made. What does that mean? So let's say I'm going to use the example of marketing, or let's say you work in the marketing department and you have worked with IT to streamline a report, which gives immediate answers to the executive team. That is awesome. And it wasn't part of your role. It wasn't part of, you saw the need. You saw that it was taking them 20 steps to get to the answers that they needed. And you work with IT to automate this report that would give them the answers. Things like that, where it's not just let me how can I get the raise, but how are we helping each other? How am I contributing? How am I being a part of the bigger picture? All right, so there's a list in here that I'm not going to go through all of it. I just wanted to highlight the biggest points in here. Another recommendation that I have is keeping track of your performance review and making sure that you're making progress in any areas where you didn't get a high score. If your company, if your employer doesn't do performance reviews, that's a conversation to have with them as well, because that is really going to help you get to that conversation. Because if they don't do, I have worked for employers where they didn't do performance reviews, which it is really for both. It can have an impact on both sides, but it really, if you ask your your supervisor, manager, like, what, like, is there a way that we can have those performance reviews? Because I really want to be able to track my performance and see where I can improve so I can grow and also help the organization. Because at the end of the day, the performance review, again, should be structured in a way where it trickles down, like from, this is where we need to be as a company. This is where every department, their goals for every department, and then that falls into all of the employees that roll up to that department. So that's another way to keep track of that, to help you when you're ready to have that conversation. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. So preparing for a salary negotiation. Okay, I think this is to me, it's always harder to like the mindset than the technicality. I feel like, especially like working with clients, and it's always a mindset. It's I cannot do it, and they're gonna say no, and this and that, and so it all starts with truly changing our mindset. And I'm not saying just think positive thoughts, but no, like really focus on when, again, doing your research and your homework, where you're like, okay, I have all of these things that I have accomplished. Like the example I gave on the marketing person that worked with the IT to automate a report. I have done these things, like I have all of these things that I have done. And also my performance review is great. I always get great feedback. Yeah, there's a couple of things that I need to work on. Why do I still feel so uncomfortable with having the conversation? And just kind of like, I mean, feeling like stepping into, I guess, into your power, and really believing that you have what it takes to even just to have a conversation. Why not? So the next one is identifying your leverage. So this one is basically, you want to know how others in your market are doing. Like, what are your unique skills compared to everybody else in the within your particular market? So let's say I'm going to use my example. So I came from corporate doing finance work, and so it would be like, okay, how do I compare my skill set? How does it compare not only what I do, financial planning and analysis, but also what are the requirements for that role, and how do I compare to others? And I'm going to share resources where you can find this information, but also not only comparing yourself to the same kind of like job description that other people are doing, but also comparing your where you are. So where, like, let's say you are in California, and well, let's say you're in Texas, and you're asking for a salary that it's more feasible for somebody living in California. So also taking into account the cost of living, knowing like what are those parameters that you have to, like, to get an understanding of where you need to be. The next one that I have in here is know your worth. So how much do people in your field make? And again, focusing on your particular area. Let's say you're in Austin. I'm not sure I know Austin is growing. I don't think we have anybody from Austin, but as an example, we have somebody, you're in Austin, and Austin is growing, and a lot of businesses that are moving there, so that is creating a possible increase in salary for the field. So things like that knowing how much is your salary, how much is the job that you do worth, plus, I mean, knowing what also other skill set that you have and you bring to the table, like what are your accomplishments, achievements, If you can prove that in numbers, that is the best way to do it, where you can say, I was able to increase productivity for my department by 10%, or I was able to even have an impact on revenue of, I don't know, 5% due to this reporting that I did. Let's say the reporting that you work with the IT department, I was able to improve revenue or whatever that might be. And obviously don't make up the numbers, like really do your research and be sure to know what that is. And there's a couple of places where you can really get some of this information. And I'm not sure if this is, I'm hoping they're international, but I'm not sure. So I have salaryexpert.com, jobstar.org, Glassdoor, PayScale, and MoneyGeek. And also, if you are in the nonprofit arena or organizations, that's going to be a little bit different. So there's actually information on this on guidestar.org. And I'm going to have these resources at the end of the presentation, so you don't worry if you didn't get them. So, all right, so have a plan for the question, like if the question goes in a way that you weren't expecting. So one of the things is when you start the conversation, you don't want to jump into like, I need a salary raise because I'm expecting a baby and I need a salary raise. That's gonna go south really fast. So you want to start first with, again, outlining everything that you have accomplished, all the things that really make a point on why you're asking, like it's intentional why you're asking for this. And also you don't want to disclose what you think. This is more for the negotiating, like if you're negotiating for a new role, you don't want to disclose too early what you think your salary should be. Just try to even say like, I'm open to negotiating. Like if they ask you, sometimes they ask you on the drop down when you're applying, I'm open to negotiate. Leave it at that. Because if you disclose too early, then I mean, you can still negotiate, but it's kind of like they already know where you want to be at. So that's another example. And then determine your bottom line. So this means, again, if you're negotiating for a salary for a new, like in a new job, you want to know, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, like what is that role, the salary, and then you want to compare that against your budget, your monthly spending. Like, what is it like? Where are you within regards to that? Because you can always, let's say they give you less than what the industry is asking for, but you're actually getting other type of benefits, like they match your 401k, or I don't know, you get a free membership to the gym, or they give you a certain amount for your HSA, things like that. Like also take those into account, because those do add up, and those are expenses that you wouldn't that you're not taking on if your employer is providing those for you. So always look into that as well. And then I have a pick the right time. So again, timing is everything. Again, if you're doing a salary negotiation, new job, just test the waters. Like, don't come too strong and blur up like your what you think your salary should be. Just go with the conversation. Have your bullet points, like memorize like what you have contributed to in different organizations. What are your skills that employer is not going to find in else. Like, what makes you unique? Why do they want to hire you in the first place? And why should they raise or why should they match the salary that you want? So again, timing and preparation. And then use the right tone and show confidence. So again, I mentioned this earlier, like you don't want to be too passive or too arrogant or, like they said no and then you just walk away. No, like don't give up yet. Like just stay cool, stay confident, like have the conversation. It's another different conversation. And if it makes you feel like something I do all of the time when negotiating, or what I do to help me understand it, how it works, I look at other areas of my life. So I'm like, in what other areas of my life do I negotiate? And you're going to be surprised if you do this exercise. You probably negotiate a lot already. So let's say in my case, I'm like, I negotiate with my husband. Like if he cooks, I do the dishes. If he takes the dogs out for a walk, I'll wash them. If like there's a negotiation happening all of the time. Or with friends, like if you pick me up, I'll pay for your gas. If this, then that. So consider other areas where you have negotiated and you're already negotiating. So why is this so much different than any other area of your life? Maybe because you practice it all the time, so you don't even know that you're negotiating. Even like if you have kids, you're negotiating with your toddlers. Like, if you eat this, I'm going to give you this. So you're already negotiating. So I think it takes a little bit of the edge off when you know, like, oh, I'm actually already negotiating. So it's not a big deal. I just need to be prepared and show up and do it. Okay, so that's part of the confidence. Consider be prepared for a counter offer. So what if they offer something else? What if they tell you about the perks? Okay, I cannot match your salary, what you want, but here are the things. Come prepared to have that discussion as well. And be open as well. And then again, some negotiating perks that you can consider, or even that are out there, are like, obviously your salary increase, vacation time, work schedule. So let's say, I don't know if I work so many hours a week, or 4 times, even like if I work 4 times a week and take Fridays off, maybe that can be part of the negotiation. Why not? A bonus. If you meet, again, going back to the performance review, when everybody in the organization has to meet certain goals, if you meet your goals, then there's a bonus to that. And that's a win-win for everybody. Equity benefits, profit share. Others are relocation assistance in the event that you need to relocate. Company car. I know this is big for international companies, like company car. Like, and when I used to live in Amsterdam, that was a big deal, like getting a company car, because it's so expensive to have your own car in the Netherlands. So maybe that can be part of the negotiation. Childcare facilities or cost, a phone allowance, where your employer, if you're using the phone for your personal phone, where they can give you a percentage or pay your full bill. I mean, that's another way to do that. A flexible work schedule, and maybe a budget for traveling. Let's move on to the next slide. All right. So here are the mistakes you want to avoid. Number one, and I feel like this is why maybe it feels so scary to have that conversation, because you haven't done your homework. The moment you do your homework and the moment you're like, okay, yeah, these are all the things, then you can start practicing and, you know, like setting yourself up like, oh, or even identifying, okay, these are the areas. And even with the negotiation can be, these are the areas where these are my strengths. These are the areas that I'm going to work towards. Maybe that can be part of the negotiation. Doubting yourself, again, being like, no, there's more qualified people out there. So I'm just happy to have a job. Fear of asking, fear that you're gonna come across as, I don't know, too needy, too, whatever that is. And then not preparing or rehearsing. I know this is going to sound a little bit ridiculous, but yes, preparing and rehearsing even in front of a mirror, just to hear yourself out. I have learned through the years that if you hear yourself and you repeat it, it starts like sinking in, it starts registering. And then it's like, it becomes part of your vocabulary or part of how you communicate, or so it also gives you that confidence, like if you rehearse and just hearing yourself saying it, that is something that works. And then, as I mentioned earlier, giving up early in the conversation, that is definitely one of the can have an impact, a negative impact, if let's say you walk in and you're like, oh, let's have, I want to talk, you start initiating the salary conversation, and then all of a sudden, the person you're talking to, they're like, well, I don't know, let me just think, and then you're like, no, forget about it. That's fine. Let's leave it at that. No, like once you commit, you have to follow through and have that conversation, and just as uncomfortable as it may be, you want to really just go forward with it and see what happens. I mean, again, the worst that can happen is that you get a no, and that's it. I mean, how bad is that? So yeah. So not asking questions. Just this one is more about you just taking over the conversation and all the things you have done and why you should get a raise, or why you should get a salary, or why should the new employer match your salary, and you're not listening to anything they're saying. You also want to be very active, an active listener, where you're back and forth, right? This is what we're looking for. These are the things. And then you're like, oh, that person said something like a keyword that I'm an expert at. So I jump in and, oh yeah, I have done this, is like even examples, asking the questions, even asking for, when you're doing for a salary, for a new job, asking, what are the three things that need to be implemented right away? And they're going to give you the three, and you can be like, okay, those I have done the first one, I have experience doing that, it took me this long and this long to achieve that. The second one, I have experience doing that as well. It's and then give an example. And then the third one, like give the examples, and that is gonna show the possible new employer that you have what it takes, you have done the work, you also feel comfortable, and you're an active listener, and you have done all of that in the past. So yeah, why wouldn't they hire you? And also, why wouldn't they match your salary? So again, those asking the questions, being an active listener, and then focusing on the wrong reasons. So focusing on the wrong reasons, again, I show up and I'm like, well, I think my salary should be this because I just bought a really expensive car that I cannot afford, and I need that money. Like I need it to be that. I know none of you would do that, but that's focusing on the wrong reasons. or I just had a baby, I need a salary raise, and your work is not backed up by why you're asking for a salary raise or why you're trying to negotiate a salary in the first place. So always focus on the right reasons, list them and run them and make sure that they're appropriate and that you're actually, again, at the end of the day, is contributing back to the organization. So I'm asking for this in return of that. Like going back to the example with your family or friends, negotiating with them, I'm asking for this. So you cook and I give you that, I do the dishes. It's exactly the same thing. Negotiating is both parties. At the end of the day, they're happy, they're satisfied because they're getting something in return. So it's not a one-way street. When you're focusing on the wrong reasons, it's a one-way street. And then there's no incentive for the other party to do what you're asking for. It's like asking, you're gonna cook and I'm just gonna watch TV. Like, okay, like, how is that a negotiation? So it's the same thing. Just think about it. Like if you can bring it back into your personal life, I think it's gonna make a little bit more sense as far as like, am I focusing on the wrong things? Like, how would I feel if somebody told me this? So that's a way also to check if you're focusing on the right or wrong things. Not having a plan, again, just showing up, be like, I'm just gonna wing it and I'm just gonna, like improvise, show up and see how it goes. And hopefully I'll just cross my fingers that by the end of the meeting, we're good. No, and like with anything in life, planning is key, and having a plan, and again, preparing and looking at all those areas, like everything that I have walk you through this webinar, like really being intentional. I think when we are intentional, and that allows us to have a plan where we can really go and reach our goals. And so this is no different than that. Being intentional, have a plan, and then go and deliver. And then if you realize, no, I put the plan together and there's 2 things I need to work on, then work on those things. And then naming your number first. I mentioned this earlier. You come in to the meeting and you're like, my number is, I don't know, 85,000. And then you're done, because maybe you were able to negotiate a little bit more and maybe some perks with that. So by that point, even if what they were gonna tell you, like let's say it was the $80,000 and you come in at 85, you already blocked any opportunity to have that discussion to see if there's anything else that you can get, like perks or anything else that you might be able to get. Okay, so I'm gonna go into the next slide. All right, so here are a couple of resources, and so I'm gonna walk you through those. So pay scale, I mentioned all of these ones. Pay scale is gonna be, you can get in there like your salary report. So this is gonna tell you like job description, salary, like the amounts, also like any career research, like how are you doing? Like you're gonna be able to compare yourself against the industry, and also compare yourself against other people with your same job description. Again, cost of living is very important, because pay scale can tell you, they have like so many resources within there. If you had not checked them out, the cost of living is gonna tell you, based on this area or this location, this is what your salary within this job should be. So it's a really, that has a wealth of information in that website. Salary.com, salary rating scale. So again, it's gonna list through like a grading scale based on your skill set, like what that looks like. So this is going to really give you an insight of, okay, so based on all of the skill set that I have, how does it compare to the actual role? Like, where am I lacking? So you can actually work on those areas. Glassdoor, I mean, you can get everything in Glassdoor. Glassdoor, you can even, and I know this has nothing to do with salary negotiation, but I'm also going to point it out. So you can also get from there the company that you're interested in applying or working for. If they have reviews in there by employees. So this is really helpful too, because it's going to help you. Like if you're looking for a job, it's going to help you identify where you want to spend your time. Meaning, okay, this company doesn't have the culture that I'm looking for. Maybe use it as practice to practice your salary negotiation skills. Why not? Which is not actually it's not a bad idea. When I was looking for jobs back in the old days, that was something I always used to do. I would apply for jobs within my my role, but I would also apply to companies that I was not interested in working on, because I did the research and I was like, I don't want to work there. But I would use that as an opportunity to practice on my interview skills and also negotiating my salary. So that's like to give you that, like help you with that. So again, Glassdoor has salary advice. They have templates in there. If you're like, well, I don't even know how to initiate the conversation. They have a salary comparison by company and location, and they have a lot of information. Indeed is also a great place to look. Again, salary range, and then I was looking this website from Indeed. It's a blog, and it really has a lot of really good, insightful information on how to negotiate your salary and where do you belong as far as the scale. Another resource is that it's not listed in here is a fearless salary negotiation. Fearless salary negotiation. And this website has a ton of templates. Again, if you're like, okay, how do I start the conversation? How do I draft that initial email? This walks you step by step on how to do that. So you sound, or it gives you like a sample, so then you can recreate what it says, but it gives you like the frame to start your own email or start the conversation, or how to where to focus. And also it has a lot of templates on how to structure, again, like kind of like what we went over, those things that you need to work on to prepare for that conversation. All right, so we're gonna go into breakout rooms. But before we do that, I would like to thank everybody who is live on Facebook for joining us. I really hope this was insightful and it gives you all the tools, or at least to start putting all your research together to initiate the conversation. And yeah, so Ileana, I don't know if you want to jump in and share something.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Jeanette. We're going to continue here. Those of you that are that are here on Zoom, we're going to continue with some exercises, because it's by practicing, it's how we learn. So we're definitely going to be applying those. And for those that are live on Facebook, thank you so much. And please join us at alphaboston.org. Become a part of our our familia, and where we will be providing a lot of different events. If you're in the area of Boston in person throughout the year, we're going back to in-person events. And then if you are online, we'll continue to provide our virtual and hybrid events throughout the year. So thank you so much for those of you on Facebook. And Jeanette, back to you.
Thank you, thank you. So we're gonna go into the breakout rooms, and I'm gonna walk you through the exercise. And then when we come back from the breakout room, we are going to open it up for questions. So the breakout room. So what are we gonna do? So we are gonna do kind of like a practice role play, and we're depending on how many people are in your group. So I'm gonna give you, if you have a place, if you're gonna write this, so you don't forget. So person 1 is gonna be the employer. Person 2 is gonna be the employee. So between the two of you, you're gonna have that conversation. So first you wanna set the tone. So what company, the employer, what company they are, and also the employee, what role, what job are they negotiating for the salary. So first have that framed out so that you can actually have the conversation. And then the employer, you're gonna start with having that initial conversation, initiating the conversation. And you can be as creative as you want to. I'm just giving you an example. You don't have to follow what I'm saying. Meaning an example is, as an the employer tells you, sends you an email, we love you, we want to bring you back, so we can start the process to hire you, or whatever that is. And then the employee replies, and what is the employee going to say? And then they meet, and what is the conversation? How are you negotiating that? So basically what you want is, again, having that conversation and feeling comfortable with that. The third person is gonna keep track of the strategies used effectively.
Jeanette,
yes.
Instead of doing the breakout rooms, can we just have Q&A? I think there's people that want to just have a conversation and continue to learn. I think that would be great.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. I could see a lot of questions online. Let me just go back. Dania, I don't know if you have also on your end.
I do have some questions on my end. I'm going to start with the most recent ones. So there was questions around when calculating, it was a reaction to the slide about sources of information. So the question was, I'm so sorry, I lost it. I am so sorry, I lost my, hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we're waiting.
I am so sorry about that. I am having problems with that.
There was a question about, can you speak more about the cost of living versus a race? How do we figure that out?
Yes, that's an excellent question. So I'm gonna give an example. For instance, somebody in Dallas, Texas, and I'm gonna give that example because I live there and I know kind of like the industry. So somebody living in Dallas, Texas, the cost of living is, it's pretty low for Dallas or for the rest of the country, but still the salaries within those within Dallas, it's actually pretty high comparable to the rest of the market. So let's say somebody else living in Texas, in a smaller town than Dallas, their cost of living is going to be probably about the same or a little bit less than living in Dallas, but the salary there's definitely going to be a shift. So somebody living, like, let's say in Midland, their salary is going to be way lower than somebody living in Dallas, Texas. So how do I know what that what that factor is. Again, the resources that I shared, and there's also communities in LinkedIn where there's for different professions, and people share this information because they're helping each other like prepare for that. Like how is it over there? Or another example is if you're planning to relocate, again, do your research, because if you live in, let's say in Dallas, Texas, and you're moving to, let's say to San Francisco, and you're like, well, in Dallas, I was getting paid, I don't know, let's say 80,000, and you come with that expectation to get paid 80,000 in San Francisco without doing the research. In San Francisco, probably you're going to get paid more because of the cost of living. So that's something that you really want to look into. What is the cost of living and how does that attribute to the salary? And again, the resources that I share, they tell you in there, you enter the zip code and it's going to tell you relatively the range. And then you can decide like, okay, well, based on my experience, I think I'm more on the lower end, or based on my experience, I'm actually more on the higher end. And that's how you can kind of know where you should be.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank you.
Another question here is, can you tell us more about how to assess soft skills and being able to use the unique experiences that people have to improve whatever the company does for the people?
Yes. How to assess soft skills. Again, it's going to go back to your particular role. So let's say soft skills can be for somebody that works with spreadsheets, or that can have an impact, meaning like I'm a master. I'm going to use an example of like in a finance role where if you don't have, let's say you don't know how to work an Excel, or you're just coming into the industry or out of into working with Excel spreadsheets, but it is not required within your job to be like a master at it, then you can utilize that where you're like, I actually do macros, I do like I automate reports like that. You can really use towards your advantage. Like you can focus on those different areas where you're like, well, this is not part of my job description, but I have this knowledge that I can show you how I can improve or how I can do my work faster and also improve, for instance, the reporting for the company. That's an example. Yeah.
The other thing that I would share also, Jeanette, I think that's a great example. The other thing to think about that we don't keep in mind a lot is all of those transferable skills, right? For example, like communication, like analytical thinking, things that you do no matter what your role, and obviously that you focus on more for certain roles than others, but we all have to communicate, we all have to listen, we all have to present at some point in time, we all have to, do certain things. So also think about those as you're thinking, or as you're evaluating your skills, because that could be a great way of showcasing like the potential for you to grow to a larger responsibility. Like, how are your leadership skills? How are you able to bring teams together to collaborate? Because it also showcases, the potential of you to grow to higher in the organization if you're asking for a salary increase in particular. So I think that's a great example, Jeanette. Thank you. Dania, I think you were going to say something.
Yes, thank you, Elena. Janet, we received a question via email, so I do have the specifics here. I'm going to summarize. This is a person that for a good portion of last year and up to this year was acting up, right? So it was in an interim role covering for a person, a manager that was I'm going to assume out of the office. And during that that tenure or that interim role, there were talks about a potential promotion to make it official, right? That has not happened yet, but this person recently, I'm assuming as part of a performance review or periodic review, they received a bonus and also a compensation increase. However, it seems that the promotion will still happen in the near future, and the person is asking, how do I negotiate a raise, as a result of that promotion, because the person feels that most likely when the person gets the official promotion and asks for adjustments to salary and salary negotiation, that the employer might say, you just got a salary increase and you just got a performance bonus. When the perspective of this person is that they have been doing that compensation that they just received is a reflection of all the hard work that they did for the previous year, so it was not forward looking. So what is your input for that situation?
That's an excellent question, and I think we would have to go really deep into that, because was there a conversation on meaning the role that they were going to do for that particular period of time, and also was there a conversation of that salary increase, what that entailed? So that if it was just a salary increase with no, like, just I'm going to increase your salary and not asking the questions. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, Ileana, because I feel like it's very specific and I would want to know more details on that.
Yeah, I think it's just important in all of these negotiations to be able to have clear examples of, the work that we're doing, the value that we're bringing to an organization. I think it's a lot of the points that you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation, Jeanette, in terms of, the impact that you create on a daily basis through the projects, through the accomplishments, through the work that you do, through bringing people together and being able to articulate it in clear, like, lists of either, we were able to be faster on this team, or to deliver an increase in sales, or to having those metrics and being able to talk to that impact that you create is always going to be very, very helpful, and backing it up. The other thing that I would say, for example, in this particular example, is always keep in mind sponsors and mentors and people that can help you in those conversations or in those situations, that can also advocate for you, so that they can showcase, yes, that person is really worth, it's really valuable for the company because they constantly go above and beyond, because they go out of their scope, because they have a wonderful positive attitude. All of these things, sometimes we might not feel that we have the ability or the voice to be heard, but if we create those relationships throughout an organization with mentors, with sponsors, with advocates, they can then help us in those situations to be able to have those conversations. So that's something that's also important that we normally don't keep in mind. I know that in my history, I never thought of having mentors or sponsors or advocates, but I think it becomes very, very important, so that specific situation that was shared does not go like wasted, that they can have an advocate for them to be able to back up that situation.
There was a lot of information exchange in the chat, right? So people sharing experiences of the last time they asked for a raise, and long time, and that how it went badly, and they have never attempted that again. So I really hope that with all the tools shared here today, people can view this as a negotiation, right? And that maybe that negative experience is a starting point, and how they can be equipped with tools to better prepare them moving forward. you know, and as Ileana mentioned, a lot of talk about, you know, sponsorship and keeping track of your accomplishments. There were questions, but I think you addressed them towards the end of the presentation. And also Ileana provided some resources in the chat around how do you really benchmark what's the appropriate salary for a role, and a lot of questions around cost of living, right? So obviously, in general, cost of living has increased, but there's some locations where that's more exacerbated.
Yeah, the other thing that I would add, and I would love, Jeanette, your thoughts, is sometimes when we're looking for a job, we feel that, you know, we have to cater to everything that the company is asking for, right? So it's just, we just want the job so badly that we're the ones that are not valuing ourselves. So when you talked about mindset at the beginning of your presentation, I thought that was super powerful, because if we go in with a mindset of, I just want this job, I just need it, it doesn't matter, then we are already belittling ourselves. We're already on the, how did it say, like on the shorter end of the stick, because we are already not necessarily believing in our worth. We just want the yes so that we can grab onto whatever people tell us. So if we don't believe in ourselves, it's going to be very hard for companies then to believe that we're worth it, or that, you know, we deserve whatever it is that we decide that we deserve, right? So I thought that was very powerful, Jeanette. And on that note, do you have, I know you talked a little bit at the beginning about mindset, but do you have any specific tips on how people can shift that mindset to become more empowering minutes before, you know, they go into the interview or the negotiation? Because you should have already prepared and done all these things. But from a mindset perspective, do you have any tips, any recommendations on how people can get pumped up and raise their energy to feel even more empowered for those conversations?
I do. But before I answer that, I wanted to jump, piggyback right on something that you said that I feel is very important. Where you were mentioning, sorry, today my English is not coming out. When you were mentioning that sometimes we undervalue ourselves and we're like, I'm just gonna take this job because I'm in a way desperate, right? And it can also be like, let's say you get the job, but it's not the right job, it's not the right company. You had a feeling, you had a gut feeling that you shouldn't, that's not your where you want to be. So that also can have an impact on not only on the future job that you negotiate, because why did you stay there just for a year? Why did you stay there just for 6 months? Like that can also have an impact on, you know, like now you're going to have to explain why you left. And then on top of that, you need to negotiate your salary. So again, really taking a close look into, is this the right place for me? Is it a right fit? Again, doing the research, like what are employees saying about that company? Do I want to work there? Is that the culture that I want to be part of? So that's something that we don't think about. And then in the future, it is really can have an impact when we do leave and try to get something else. So just wanted to add that. And then on the mindset, I mean, there's so many resources. I practice shifting my mindset every day. And it is a practice that I believe it's a life journey. To change our perspective on how we see ourselves and how we see the world. Something that has helped me at least is I heard this quote a couple of years ago, and it really helped me kind of like go deeper into it. What you practice grows. So what does that mean? Well, if you're practicing like, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to get the job, I'm not going to get the salary increase, well, guess what? You're not going to get any of that. So if you practice, I am a qualified person, I have what it takes, I have the skills, I have proven myself in the past. I have, even if it's little things that you might not think they're big, they add up and they're big. So focusing on those things and feeding those thoughts every day and practicing those, I guess, like thoughts about yourself or about the situation, they're going to grow and you're going to be able to get there and actually start believing that, because what you practice grows.
I love that. And I had a boss once that said, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? The more that you say, I can't do this, I'm not worth it, I'm not going to get it, and then you don't, it's sort of, you're already, you know, you're already getting to what your objective was. He said, we always 100% get what we do or what we think. And either we say that we don't, and then we don't, or we say that we do, and we really at least position ourselves to be able to do that. So I think that's great advice. Dania, do we have another question on the chat?
We have another question in the chat, and the question is, can you negotiate if a salary for the role has already been set, if you were making more at a previous role?
Yes, you can always negotiate. Again, the worst case is you get a no. So yes, you can negotiate, but again, on all the everything I covered tonight, you have to have your points and be able to back up why you're gonna get that raise. So yes, there is, and I have had that in the past where an employer wanted to, I mean, it was like 10,000 less that they were offering me. And I'm like, on my previous job, I was making more than that. And again, this is what I did. This is how I can, again, asking the question, what is your immediate need? Where do you need me? Because asking those questions is also going to help you prepare for your salary negotiation. So I have done all of those things, and this is how I did them, and this is how I impact the company. So I definitely like proving that you are qualified or even capable of doing those things, and for them to match your salary. Again, it takes preparation, but I want to say like 99% of the times that I have negotiated my salary, I have gotten it because I did the work, I showed up, I was prepared, I had everything, and it was like, it's gonna happen. Otherwise, if you don't match it, I'm leaving, because there's other options out there. I mean, you're not gonna go with that attitude, obviously, like arrogant, like I just.
I don't think the arrogance, but I think if we believe in it, it does come through. And I think if we don't advocate for ourselves, nobody else will. So I completely agree with you, Jeanette, that it's not with arrogance, but yes, with belief that we are worth it. I've definitely been a part of a lot of different conversations where the salary was like supposedly have to have a top and a limit, and I got 30% more, and it went through a lot of approvals to be able to get it done. But it's not impossible, because when you believe and when you have the evidence, when you have the the feeling that not the feeling, but when you have the facts of this is the impact that I'm going to create, this is why, and almost you're not going to have anybody else that is going to be able to deliver that, and you believe in it because of what you do, there's always wiggle room. I mean, when I was in executive positions in different Fortune 500 companies, I saw those bands that you could have, that you could negotiate over, or you would reinvent, the position if it's really somebody that you believe that as a manager or as HR that's going to bring the value into the organization. There's always room for that negotiation, but I think we have to believe it first. Otherwise, they're not gonna believe if you don't believe.
Right.
So I think mindset is very important, like you mentioned. Another question. Hold on, I'm looking over here. how do we present from a place of strength? And I think this is the same for when you're negotiating salaries, when you have a small business and you need to negotiate, your contracts with new clients, when you need to go and negotiate, basically anything. You talked about, we negotiate every day, right? All these different things. And in a lot of cases, when we negotiate, when we are successful negotiating things, it's because we're negotiating from a place of strength. Because we are not doubting, and it is a little bit of from a mindset thing. But do you have any other thoughts on how we can believe in that to showcase? Maybe it's in the tone, maybe it's in how we are, the words that we use, how we prepare. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, I think somebody mentioned it in the chat, which I'm gonna add to that, which was listing what we have done. Like sometimes it's so easy to forget. It's so easy to forget everything that we have accomplished. Normally what I used to do when I was in corporate, every 6 months, like even when I started my role, I would keep the job description, and I would come back to it and compare it to my performance review, like what changed, where, like how is it evolving, what did I do, what did I didn't do, what didn't I accomplish, and every time, like just keeping track, it's kind of like it becomes like your personal file, and keeping track, like I had like this huge box of everything that I had done, and listing that, it would remind me like, oh my goodness, I have done all of these things. Like I couldn't even believe it. Like when I was reading back in the day, and as Ileana was saying, like we negotiate all of the time, whether you're looking for a job or you start your own business, it's a negotiation, and it's reminding ourselves, I have done this before. I'm qualified, but I forgot. So really keeping track of all of that, and kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like a journal that you go back and read it to remind yourself like, oh yeah, I forgot I had done this, and I did this project and this. And again, that is really going to help you during that conversation. If you have notes from prior, from your experience that you can actually pinpoint and be like, this is what I did. I like specifics. It's just gonna really help you, because we tend to forget, and then all of a sudden it's like, I haven't really accomplished anything, and it's like, let's sit back and review that, because I'm pretty sure you have accomplished a lot.
Yes, I think, and I had written it down before in the chat of that list of accomplishments, because we forget. Like I can remember what I did 2 months ago or the last month, but I can't remember what I did last year. But once you go through it, you even sometimes get surprised, right? It's like, oh, I didn't remember that I had done all of these things. So I think that's a great example, and a great reminder that we need to keep those in mind. We're almost at time, so I want to slip in one more question before we close, and thank everybody, and thank Jeanette for such a wonderful presentation and so many tips. But I think one of the things you talked about, how we prepare, how we, do all of our data, all our research, think about all of the things that we want to request, or how we're worth. But one of the things that I don't think a lot of us, and I know that I didn't when I was negotiating my salaries, is it is an interview both ways. It's not only about us, telling them or asking them. It's also about us being able to ask, the other side questions to get even more information. So I saw on the chat, like somebody said, the first thing that they say when you're saying a salary negotiation is no, and that the conversation, closes. And I remember somebody telling me, well, did you ask why not? Like I hear that that right now it seems like the answer is no. However, you know, what would need to happen for this conversation to be open, or what needs to happen for, I think we don't ask enough questions. We just stay like focused on the no, or focused on whatever people tell us, and we don't add the curiosity. Can you share a little bit more about that, and how we need to push a little bit more and ask those questions to get more information?
Yeah, no, I think you covered it, but yeah, it's a two-way street. It's learning what the employer, the company is looking for, what are their concerns, what are their challenges. If you're asking those questions, what are your immediate, like, what are the challenges? What is the organization like? What is even the turnover? Like, you want to know all of those things, because that is going to give you a lot of information on whether you actually want to work there, and whether you might be negotiating. But at the end of the day, you ask all the questions where you're like, I don't think this is the right place for me. It doesn't feel good based on what I got out of it. This is not where I want to be. So again, not taking that job because we're desperate, like I really need a job right now, but like maybe even applying for other jobs. And something that I also recommend is not just settling for one, like applying if you're getting interviews, where you can just not settle for one, like do your research, keep on looking for other options, so you can find. Also, you want to find, at the end of the day, is finding the perfect fit for you. And you're going to learn that through asking all of those questions. Because if we don't ask the questions, then who knows what you're getting into.
Absolutely. And some questions keep coming in. Dania, do you want
to we have one here. The question is, do we still have room to negotiate a salary if it's a stretch role, right? Because we've been focusing a lot on it's, you know, we negotiate from a place of strength, but what about if it's a stretch role? I'm going to share my quick thought on that, and please expand, Jeanette. I think what the argument there will be, you come up with examples of how you have demonstrated before, how you have, you know, learned before and been in similar situations, and I have successfully managed that. But if you want to share your thoughts there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Exactly on what you said. Again, it doesn't need to be, I think a lot of skills are transferable, and we forget that. So again, showing and proving, well, I might not have this, but I am a fast learner. I accomplish all of these things. Like on my last role, I don't know, I didn't have those strengths that, or the qualifications that they were looking for, but within, I don't know, 2 months, I was already on top of it, learning. Like I'm a hands-on, like I'll get it done. And I love to learn. I love to grow. I'm obviously you're going to use whatever it is. I'm just giving you examples. You're not just going to say that, but like, for instance, I love change. Like that's a big one, because a lot of places, there's a lot of change. So I like that. I like being challenged, and this is how I did it. So not just saying what you have done, but not proving it, but like showing it with examples. So here are the examples. I did this, so I wasn't qualified for this, but I did this, and this, and this is how it improved. This is how I contributed. This is, again, there's always room to negotiate. So we're the ones just like, and again, at the beginning of the presentation, 84% of employers expect a negotiation. So why not?
Any other questions? I don't see anything else. You guys see anything else? Dania, Carola?
No, this had seemed so great, Janet. I really appreciate you walking us through everything and all the questions. I think this has been an amazing workshop. Negotiation is crucial, as you said, not only in the in the work related things, but also in the personal life, I can start negotiating other things. So thank you so much for that. This is extremely helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. No, thank you, everyone.
Dania, sorry, any final words?
Thank you all for joining. Yeah, there's one other.
Please feel free to reach out to us. I know that we had one last one coming in. The one, can you negotiate in relocation?
Yes, you
want to
can.
slip that one in pretty fast.
Yes, you can.
Awesome. Yes, you can negotiate in relocation. I was originally from Mexico. I live in Rhode Island. There's a lot that you can negotiate for relocation. So just make sure that you, in Glassdoor and many of the platforms that Jeanette said, there's a lot of great information to do that. Thank you so much, Jeanette. You've been wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Please join Alpha Boston. We have a lot of other events in person and virtual, and we invite you to be a part of this Alpha Familia. We're all here to support each other and to grow in our careers. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day, wherever in the world you are. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.